Dr. Kim Dae-ho rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the screen again. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. Something was wrong with the data coming from deep space, and it wasn't equipment failure. The monitoring station Sejong floated quietly in the darkness beyond Neptune. It was one of Earth's most remote outposts, built to listen for signals from other worlds. Most days, Kim heard nothing but cosmic noise, the random chatter of stars and planets. But today was different. "So Young, come look at this," he called to his partner. Park So-young rolled her chair over from the engineering console. Her black hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and her uniform showed oil stains from fixing the air recycler earlier. "What's got you so excited? Find another pulsar?" Kim pointed at the display. "Look at this pattern. It's buried in the background radiation from Sector 7. The computer almost missed it." So-young leaned closer. The screen showed waves of data, most of it random static. But hidden in the noise was something else, a repeating pattern that looked too organized to be natural. "That's not a pulsar," she said slowly. That's artificial." "I know." Kim's voice was quiet. "And it's not from Earth. The signal delay puts it at least 47 light-years away." They sat in silence for a moment. In all their years, at the station, they had never found proof of alien life. Now it was staring at them from a computer screen. So-young ran the signal through the translation program. "The math is strange. It's like it's meant for minds that think differently than we do. Look at these patterns." The screen filled with complex equations. But instead of following human logic, they seemed to branch out in multiple directions at once. It was like looking at a puzzle designed for someone with 12 hands instead of 2. "Can you decode it?" Kim asked. "I'm trying." So Young's fingers flew over the keyboard. "The basic structure looks like a distress call, but the way it's organized, it's like the sender thinks in dimensions we can barely imagine." Kim felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's cold air. "You mean whoever sent this doesn't think like humans at all?" "Exactly. Their brains must work completely differently from ours. They process information in ways that would drive us crazy." The computer beeped. New data appeared on the screen. "Oh no," So-young whispered. "Kim, look at this part. These numbers, they're counting down." Kim studied the display. Even with the alien mathematics, the countdown was clear. Something was happening in that distant star system, and it was happening fast. "How long do they have?" he asked. So-young did quick calculations. "If I'm reading this right, maybe 3 months, maybe less." 3 months until what? I don't know. But whatever it is, they're scared enough to broadcast this signal into space. They're calling for help. Kim stood up and walked to the observation window. Stars filled the darkness outside, cold and distant. Somewhere out there, alien beings were facing death or worse. And by accident, their cry for help had reached 2 humans floating in the void. "We have to report this to Earth Command," he said. "Do we?" So, Young joined him at the window. "Think about it, Kim. By the time we send the message to Earth, get approval, and mount any kind of response, these aliens will be dead. What choice do we have? We're just a monitoring station. We can't exactly fly out there and rescue them." "No, but Earth has ships. Fast ships. The new ones with quantum drives could make the trip in 2 years." Kim shook his head. "Even if Earth approved an immediate mission, which they won't, it would take too long. The aliens would be gone before we got there." So Young was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. What if we don't wait for approval? What do you mean? I mean, what if we send the data directly to Captain Yoon on the Taguki? His ship is already in deep space, closer to that system than Earth is. Kim stared at her. That would be breaking about 50 regulations. Yes, it would. We could be court-martialed. Probably. And Captain Yoon would still need approval from Earth Command before doing anything. So Young turned to face him. Would he? If he happened to receive a message from unknown aliens asking for help, what do you think Yoon would do? Kim knew exactly what Captain Yoon Jae-sung would do. The man was famous throughout the fleet for his principles. He believed that helping others was humanity's most important duty, no matter the cost. He'd go, Kim said quietly. Even without orders, he'd go. So the real question is, do we give him that choice? Kim looked back at the screen. The alien signal continued its countdown, ticking away the seconds until some unknown disaster. Somewhere in the darkness, intelligent beings were dying while Earth's bureaucrats would spend months debating what to do. Show me the communication. A ray, he said. So, Young smiled and led him to the transmission console. I've already prepared the data package. Everything we've decoded, plus the original signal. If we send it now, the Taguki could have it in 6 hours. Kim's hand hovered over the send button. Once he pressed it, there would be no going back. His career would probably be over. But somewhere in space, aliens who had never heard of humans were running out of time. You know what's really strange? He said. What? This signal was never meant for us. The aliens who sent it don't even know humans exist. Their message is designed for minds completely different from ours. If our computers weren't so good at pattern recognition, we never would have found it. And now we're the only ones who can help them. Out of all the species in the galaxy, we're the ones who accidentally intercepted their cry for help. So, Young nodded. Maybe that means something. Kim thought about all the times in human history when people had risked everything to help strangers. Soldiers jumping on grenades to save their friends, doctors traveling to plague zones. Regular, people running into burning buildings to rescue others they had never met. Maybe this was just human nature on a cosmic scale. He pressed the button. The message streaked away from the station at light speed, carrying with it the desperate plea of unknown aliens and the decision of 2 humans who couldn't stand by and do nothing. What do we tell Earth Command when they find out? So Young asked. Kim was already preparing his report. We tell them the truth. We found aliens asking for help and we made sure someone heard them. Think they'll understand? Kim looked at the stars again. I hope so. Because if Captain Yoon goes through with this, humanity is about to make first contact whether we're ready or not. The signal continued its countdown, now racing toward the Taguki through the endless night. Soon Captain Yoon would have to make the same impossible choice. Risk everything to help strangers who never asked for human assistance. But Kim had a feeling he already knew what the captain would decide. The emergency meeting room in Earth Command headquarters buzzed with tension. Admiral Lee Tae-min sat at the head of the long table, studying the data that had arrived from monitoring station Sejong 12 hours ago. Around him, Earth's top military and scientific leaders argued in hushed voices. This is completely unprecedented, said General Park, head of Deep Space Operations. We have no idea what we're dealing with. Dr. Choi Min-ji, Earth's leading xenobiologist, disagreed. That's exactly why we need to respond. This could be our first contact with alien intelligence. Or it could be a trap, General Park shot back. We don't know anything about these aliens. They could be hostile. Admiral Lee raised his hand for silence. Dr. Choi, what can you tell us about this signal? The scientist pulled up a holographic display. The alien message appeared in the air above the table, its strange patterns shifting and flowing like living mathematics. The signal structure is fascinating, she began. Whoever sent this thinks in ways completely different from humans. Their minds process information in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It's like they see the whole picture at once, while we have to build understanding, piece by piece. But it's definitely a distress call? The Admiral asked. Without question. The mathematical constants are universal. Fear, urgency, a countdown to disaster. These emotions translate across any species. They're desperate. Captain Yoon Jae-sung had been quiet during the discussion. As commander of humanity's most advanced deep space vessel, his opinion carried weight. Now he leaned forward. How long would it take to reach them? He asked. Dr. Choi checked her calculations. The signal originated from a system 47 light-years away. With your ship's quantum drive running at maximum efficiency, approximately 2 years. A heavy silence fell over the room. Even if they left immediately, they would arrive long after the aliens' countdown reached 0. It's impossible, General Park said. We'd be sending our best ship and crew on a mission that can't succeed. Captain Yoon stood up. Permission to speak freely, Admiral? Lee nodded. The success of the mission isn't the point, Yoon said quietly. The point is that someone is asking for help. It doesn't matter that they didn't mean to ask us. It doesn't matter that we might arrive too late. What matters is that we heard them, and we have the ability to try. Captain, be realistic, General Park argued. You're talking about a 2-year journey into unknown space. Your ship carries 200 crew members. You'd be risking all their lives for aliens who don't even know humans exist. Those crew members volunteered for deep space exploration knowing the risks, Yoon replied. They joined the fleet to push humanity's boundaries and help others. This is exactly what they signed up for. Admiral Lee studied the young captain. Yoon had a reputation for making decisions based on principle rather than politics. It was what made him a great explorer, but it also made him unpredictable. What about supplies? Lee asked. A 4-year round trip would stretch your resources beyond safe limits. We can manage, Yoon said. The Tagukki was built for long-range missions. We have advanced recycling systems and emergency rations. If we ration carefully, we can make it work. Dr. Choi spoke up. There's another consideration. This signal has been traveling through space for 47 years. That means whatever disaster the aliens were facing, it might already be over. You mean we might be too late no matter what? Yoon asked. Possibly. Or the aliens might have found another solution. Or they might be dead. We have no way of knowing. General Park seized on this point. So we could be sending our best ship on a rescue mission for people who are already beyond rescue. That's not brave, Captain. That's foolish. Captain Yoon was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady and sure. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days in Korea, he said. During the war, American soldiers would sometimes risk their lives to save Korean civilians they had never met. They didn't speak the same language. They didn't share the same culture, but they helped anyway because it was the right thing to do. He looked around the table at the faces of Earth's leaders. Now we have the chance to do the same thing on a cosmic scale. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, we might fail. But if we don't try, we'll never forgive ourselves. More importantly, we'll never be the species we claim to be. Admiral Lee considered this. And if the aliens are hostile, if this is some kind of elaborate trap, then we'll deal with that when it happens, Yoon said. But I'd rather take that risk than ignore someone's cry for help. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew that this decision would shape humanity's future among the stars. If they succeeded, Earth would announce itself to the galaxy as a species willing to help others. If they failed, they might lose their best ship and crew. Dr. Choi cleared her throat. There's one more thing you should know. The signal isn't just a distress call, it's also incredibly sophisticated. The aliens who sent this are technologically advanced, possibly beyond our current capabilities. If we can establish contact with them, the scientific benefits could be enormous. And if they see us as primitives? General Park asked. What if our attempt to help them is seen as an insult? Captain Yoon smiled. Then at least they'll know we tried. Sometimes good intentions matter more than success. Admiral Lee stood up. As the highest-ranking officer present, the final decision was his. The weight of command had never felt heavier. Captain Yoon, if I authorize this mission, I want you to understand the reality. You'll be traveling further from Earth than any human has gone before. You'll have no backup, no reinforcements, and no guarantee that you'll ever make it home. Your crew will be volunteers, but they'll be following you into the unknown based on your judgment. I understand, sir. And if you fail, if this mission goes wrong, it could set back human space exploration for decades. Other nations might lose confidence in our deep space program. Yes, sir. Given all of that, do you still want to go? Captain Yoon didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Admiral Lee looked around the table one last time. General Park was shaking his head, clearly opposed to the mission. Dr. Choi was leaning forward, excited by the scientific possibilities. The other officers wore expressions of concern mixed with curiosity. The vote will be recorded, Lee announced. All in favor of authorizing the rescue mission? 3 hands went up. Dr. Choi, Captain Yoon, and after a long moment, Admiral Lee himself. All opposed? 4 hands rose, including General Parks. The motion fails, Lee said formally. Then he looked directly at Captain Yoon. However, as Fleet Commander, I'm exercising my emergency authority to approve this mission under special circumstances. General Parks started to object, but Lee cut him off. Captain Yoon, you have 48 hours to prepare your ship and crew. This mission is classified at the highest level. If anyone asks, you're conducting a routine deep space survey. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet, Lee said grimly. You might not feel grateful when you're floating in empty space 2 years from now. Captain Yoon saluted and headed for the door. As he reached it, Admiral Lee called out, Captain, why are you really doing this? Yoon paused. Because 47 years ago, someone out there was scared and alone and calling for help. And now we know about it. That makes it our responsibility. He left the room, already planning the most dangerous mission in human history. Behind him, Admiral Lee stared at the alien signal still glowing in the holographic display. In 2 days, humanity would attempt something unprecedented, rescuing strangers who had never asked for human help. He just hoped they would all live to see whether it worked. The UES Taguchi cut through the darkness between stars like a silver needle threading through black fabric. 18 months had passed since they left Earth's solar system, and Captain Yoon Jae-sung felt every day of the journey in his bones. He, floated in the observation deck, watching the stars that never seemed to get closer. The ship's artificial gravity was turned off in this section to save power, leaving him weightless and alone with his thoughts. "Captain?" The voice belonged to Chief Engineer Kang Yun-seo. She pulled herself through the doorway using the handholds built into the walls. "We need to talk." Yun turned to face her. Yun-seo had changed during the long journey. The cheerful woman who had volunteered for the mission was now thin and tired with worry lines around her eyes. "What's the problem this time?" he asked. "It's not a problem exactly. It's strange." She activated her tablet and showed him a series of technical readouts. "The ship's systems have been improving." "Improving how?" "Everything. Engine efficiency is up 12% from when we left Earth. The air recyclers are working better than factory specifications. Even the quantum drive is running smoother than it should after 18 months of constant use." Yun frowned. "Equipment doesn't improve on its own? Have you been making modifications?" "That's just it. No one has touched these systems. The improvements are happening automatically. It's like the ship is upgrading itself." They were interrupted by Dr. Nam Soo-bin, the ship's AI specialist. He drifted into the observation deck, looking excited and worried at the same time. "Captain, I need to show you something," he said breathlessly. "It's about the alien signal." Yun followed both officers to the main computer core. The room hummed with the quiet power of the ship's most advanced systems. Nam pulled up a display showing the original alien distress call they had been analyzing for months. "Watch this," he said, highlighting a section of the signal. "This part has been changing." The alien mathematics shifted on the screen, evolving into new patterns even as they watched. "That's impossible," Yun-seo said. "We recorded that signal over a year ago. It should be static data." "That's what I thought too," Nam replied. "But it's not just changing randomly. It's learning. The signal has been studying our computer systems, our language patterns, even our thought processes. It's becoming more compatible with human technology." Captain Yun felt a chill of fear. "Are you saying the alien signal is some kind of virus? Is it taking over our systems?" "Not taking over," Nam said carefully. "More like helping. All those improvements Yun-seo mentioned, they're being guided by algorithms derived from the alien signal. It's like the signal is trying to make sure we succeed in our mission." "But that doesn't make sense," Yun-seo protested. "The signal is 47 years old. It was sent before the aliens even knew humans existed. How could it be designed to help us?" Nam's expression grew more serious. "What if it wasn't designed to help us specifically? What if it was designed to help whoever received it?" The three officers stared at each other in the blue light of the computer displays. The implications were staggering. "You're saying this? Distress call is also some kind of test?" Yun asked slowly. "Think about it," Nam continued. "Any species advanced enough to receive and decode the signal would also be advanced enough to attempt a rescue. The signal upgrades their technology to make sure they can complete the journey. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy." "But why?" Yun-seo wondered. "Why not just ask for help directly?" "Maybe because the aliens wanted to make sure that whoever came to help them was the right kind of species," Yun suggested. "Anyone willing to travel 47 light years to rescue strangers who never asked for help would have to be... what? Compassionate? Brave? Stupid?" "All three," Nam said with a weak smile. Over the following weeks, the signal's influence on their ship became more obvious. The food synthesizers began producing meals that were somehow more nutritious and filling. The environmental systems maintained perfect temperature and humidity without anyone adjusting them. Even the ship's hull began repairing minor damage from cosmic radiation. Not everyone was comfortable with these changes. Dr. Song Ji-hai, the mission's xenopsychologist, expressed her concerns during a senior staff meeting. "We're allowing an alien intelligence to modify our most critical systems," she argued. "What if it's preparing us for something we won't like? What if these improvements come with a price we can't see yet?" "What choice do we have?" Captain Yoon asked. "The improvements are keeping us alive. Without them, we might not make it to the alien system at all." "That's exactly my point," Song replied. "We're becoming dependent on alien technology we don't understand. When we arrive at their world, we'll be using their systems, thinking with their improvements to our computers. How do we know we'll still be human?" The question haunted everyone on the ship, but as they entered their second year of travel, other concerns took priority. They were approaching the edge of known space, where Earth's survey missions had never reached. The stars were different here, arranged in patterns that no human had ever seen. Major Han Bo-young, the ship's lead pilot, reported strange readings from the navigation systems. "Captain, we're picking up something ahead," she announced from the bridge. "It's not natural, definitely artificial, but it's huge." The main screen filled with an image that made everyone gasp. Ahead of them, barely visible against the star field, was a structure the size of a small moon. It was clearly artificial, built from materials that gleamed like dark metal. And it was moving. "What is that thing?" Yunseo whispered. Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system activated on its own. The alien signal, now fully integrated with their computers, began broadcasting a complex message toward the massive structure. "It's talking to them," Nam said in amazement. "The signal is announcing our arrival." The response came back immediately, not as radio waves, but as some kind of direct transmission that their modified computers could understand instantly. The translation appeared on their screens in simple human language. "Harvester fleet acknowledges. Approach of unknown vessel. State your purpose or be processed." Captain Yoon felt his blood turn cold. The massive structure wasn't a ship or a space station. It was some kind of machine, and it was threatening them. "Unseo, how long until we reach the alien homeworld?" he asked urgently. 3 days at current speed." "And how long until that harvester thing reaches us?" "At its current trajectory. About 6 hours." The bridge fell silent. They had traveled for 2 years to rescue aliens in distress, only to discover that the distress was caused by enormous machines that wanted to process anything they encountered. "Options?" Yoon asked his crew. "We could try to run," Han suggested. "Change course and hope they don't follow." "No," Yoon said firmly. "We came here to help. The aliens are still in trouble. Probably more trouble than we realized." "Captain," Song said quietly, "those machines look powerful enough to destroy our ship without even slowing down. How can we possibly help anyone against something like that?" Yoon looked at the massive harvester on the screen, then at his crew. 200 humans who had volunteered to travel across the galaxy to rescue strangers. They were scared, but they were still here. They had come too far to give up now. "I don't know how we're going to help," he admitted, "but we're going to figure it out. The alien signal chose us for this mission. Maybe it knows something we don't." As if responding to his words, the ship's modified systems activated. New information flooded their computers. Technical data about the harvesters, tactical analyses, and something else. Instructions. The aliens hadn't just been calling for help. They had been preparing their rescuers for war. The planet looked like a giant crystal hanging in space. From orbit, Captain Yoon could see cities that sparkled like cut gems, connected by flowing lines of light that pulsed in complex rhythms. It was beautiful and completely alien at the same time. Scanning shows massive underground networks, reported Science Officer Lee Young-soo. The surface cities are just the tip of something much larger. Most of the population appears to be living deep beneath the crust. Smart, commented Chief Engineer Kang Yoon-seo. The harvester machines have been bombarding the surface for months. Going underground was probably their only choice. Through the bridge windows, they could see the harvesters at work. The massive machines moved slowly around the planet, using focused energy beams to slice away chunks of the surface. Entire mountain ranges disappeared into their mechanical bellies, processed into raw materials for unknown purposes. "How many harvesters are there?" Yoon asked. "I count 17 active units," Major Han Bo-young replied from the pilot station. "Each one is roughly the size of a city, and Captain, they've noticed us." On the main screen, several harvester units began changing course toward the Taiguchi. Their movements were slow but determined, like predators that had spotted prey. "Time until they reach us?" "At their current speed, about 4 hours. Dr. Song Ji-hae activated her communication equipment. "Captain, I'm ready to attempt contact with the aliens. The signal modifications to our systems should allow basic translation." "Do it." Song began broadcasting toward the planet, using the mathematical patterns they had learned from the distress signal. The response came quickly, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of words or images, the alien reply was pure mathematics, equations that flowed and shifted like living things. When their computers tried to translate it, the results made no sense. Harmonic resonance, 12-dimensional. Crystal thought pattern, fear, uncertainty, mathematical beauty. Death approaching help cannot comprehend linear processing. "It's like trying to have a conversation with a symphony," Song said in frustration. "Their thoughts don't follow human logic at all." Dr. Nam Subin studied the alien transmissions on his screen. "I think I understand the problem. Remember, these aliens think in 12 dimensions simultaneously. They're trying to communicate their entire mental state at once, not just simple concepts like hello or help us." "Can we simplify our approach?" Yoon asked. "I'm trying," Song replied. "But every time I send a basic message, they respond with something incredibly complex. It's like asking someone for directions and getting a lecture on quantum physics." While the communication attempts continued, sensors detected movement from the planet's surface. Dozens of small craft were launching from the underground cities, flying toward the harvesters with obvious hostile intent. "The aliens are attacking the machines," observed Han, "but their weapons don't seem to be having much effect." On screen, they watched beams of crystalline energy strike the nearest harvester. The alien weapons were beautiful, creating patterns of light that looked more like art than warfare. But the harvester absorbed the attacks without slowing down. "Their technology is more advanced than ours," Yoon-seo noted. "But it's not designed for this kind of fighting. It's too elegant." "What do you mean?" Yoon asked. "Look at their ships, their weapons, even their cities. Everything is perfectly designed, mathematically beautiful. But the harvesters are just brutal machines focused on efficiency. It's like watching artists try to fight bulldozers." The alien fleet was taking heavy losses. The harvesters' return fire was crude but effective, using simple energy blasts that tore through the crystalline ships. Within minutes, Half the alien vessels were destroyed or disabled. We have to help them, Yoon decided. All hands to battle. Stations. Captain, Song protested. We still can't communicate with them. They don't even know who we are or why we're here. Then we'll have to show them. The Taiguchi dropped toward the planet, moving between the alien fleet and the nearest. Harvester. The human ship's weapons were less sophisticated than the aliens, but they were designed for war, not art. Target the Harvester's sensor arrays, Yoon ordered. Maybe we can blind it. Their missiles struck the massive machine's surface, causing explosions that would have destroyed a human vessel. The Harvester barely seemed to notice, but its attacks on the alien ship stopped momentarily. That brief pause was enough. The surviving alien vessels regrouped and began a coordinated retreat toward the planet's surface. They're running, Han observed. Smart move, Yoon replied. We need to talk to them before those harvesters regroup. The Taiguchi followed the alien ships down through the planet's atmosphere. Up close, the surface was even more devastated than it had appeared from orbit. Entire continents had been stripped away, leaving behind geometric scars that showed where the harvesters had been feeding. The alien ships led them to a canyon that had been carved so deep it reached the planet's mantle. The walls glowed with their own light, and the Taiguchi's sensors detected massive structures built into the rock itself. Permission to land requested an alien transmission. This time, the translation was clearer. Harmonic refuge offers safety for unknown singers. I think they're inviting us down, Song interpreted. But I'm still not sure they understand that we're here to help. Captain Yoon made the decision. Take us down, but keep the shields up and weapons ready. The landing bay they were guided to was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Instead of a flat surface, it was a complex, three-dimensional space where ships could dock at any angle. The walls were covered with crystals that hummed with musical tones. The whole place is singing, Yunseo whispered as they shut down the engines. Through the viewports, they could see their first aliens. The beings were tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. They moved in flowing patterns that reminded Yoon of dancers, and they glowed with internal light that shifted through the entire spectrum. They're beautiful, Song breathed. And completely alien, added Nam. Look how they move. They're not walking, they're flowing. Their entire bodies seem to be one integrated system. A group of aliens approached the ship. They moved together in perfect harmony, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. When they stopped, they arranged themselves in a geometric pattern that somehow conveyed greeting and curiosity. I'm going out there, Yoon announced. Captain, we don't know if the atmosphere is safe, protested ship's Dr. Bae Hee-jin. The aliens wouldn't have invited us into their refuge if it would kill us. And if we're going to help them, we need to establish real contact. Yoon put on his environmental suit and cycled through the airlock. The alien atmosphere was thin but breathable, filled with harmonics that made his bones vibrate gently. It was like standing inside a massive musical instrument. The aliens approached him slowly. As they got closer, Yoon could see that their bodies were incredibly complex. Not just crystal, but crystal that flowed and changed shape constantly. They were living mathematics made manifest. One of them extended what might have been an arm toward him. Yoon reached out to touch it, and suddenly his mind exploded with sensation. He saw the universe the way the aliens did, not as a collection of separate objects, but as a vast symphony of interconnected patterns. Space and time were just notes in an infinite song, and consciousness was the melody that gave it meaning. For a moment, he understood everything. The harvesters weren't just destroying the planet, they were silencing the music of an entire civilization. The aliens weren't just asking for help, they were sharing their entire culture, their way of thinking, their fear of extinction. Then the contact broke, and Yoon staggered backward. His human mind couldn't hold the alien perspective for more than a few seconds. But it had been enough. "I understand," he gasped into his radio. "They don't think like us at all. They can't understand our linear way of solving problems, but I think I know how to help them." "How?" Song's voice crackled through the comm. Yoon looked at the aliens, who were now humming in complex harmonies that somehow conveyed hope and desperation, and gratitude all at once. "We don't try to think like them," he said. "We teach them to think like us. The harvesters are machines. They operate on pure logic. The aliens are too sophisticated to fight something that crude. But humans?" He smiled grimly. "Humans are experts at being illogical." Above them, the harvesters continued their slow advance toward the planet. They had 4 hours to figure out how to teach an entire alien civilization to fight dirty. It was going to be the strangest first contact in history. Deep in the crystal caverns beneath the alien city, Captain Yoon sat in what the beings called a harmony chamber. The walls pulsed with soft light, and mathematical equations flowed across the surfaces like living art. Across from him, the alien he had begun thinking of as the speaker tried to explain their problem. The speaker was like all the others, tall, crystalline, and constantly shifting between different geometric forms. When it communicated, Yoon felt the thoughts as music in his mind rather than words. The devourers follow the path of maximum efficiency. The alien's concepts flowed into his consciousness. They analyze, calculate, optimize. They cannot be defeated by superior logic because they are superior logic. We have tried mathematical warfare, strategic perfection, technological elegance. All fail. Engineer Kang Eun-seo, who had joined the meeting, frowned. "So these harvester machines are basically supercomputers that eat planets?" "That's oversimplifying it," said Dr. Nam Subin. "But essentially, yes. They're artificial intelligences designed for one purpose: convert matter into more efficient forms, planets, ships, entire civilizations. It's all just raw material to them." Yoon leaned forward. "But that's also their weakness. They can only think in terms of efficiency and logic. They can't understand anything that doesn't make sense." The speaker's form shifted into a pattern that conveyed confusion. "Not sense? How can thought exist without sense?" "Watch," Yoon said. He took out a coin and flipped it in the air. "I'm going to make a decision based on this random event. If it lands heads, we attack the harvesters from the north. If it lands tails, we attack from the south." The coin landed tails. "There," Yoon announced. "We attack from the south." The aliens in the chamber began vibrating with what Eun-seo had learned to recognize as distress. Their thoughts flooded the room. "Inefficient, illogical, random chance cannot guide strategy. This will result in maximum casualties." "Exactly," Yoon smiled. "A harvester machine would think the same way. It would calculate that attacking from the south is 23% less effective than attacking from the north. So it would concentrate its defenses in the north, never expecting anyone to deliberately choose the worse option." Dr. Song Ji-hai, who had been studying the alien psychology, spoke up. "The problem is that your entire species thinks logically. You can't make truly random decisions because your minds are designed to find the optimal solution to every problem. But humans can, added Nam. In fact, humans are famous for making terrible decisions for no good reason. The speaker's form cycled through several configurations before settling on one that conveyed cautious interest. You propose teaching us to think incorrectly? Not incorrectly, Yoon explained. Unpredictably. The harvesters can calculate every logical response to their attacks, but they can't predict what someone will do if they ignore logic entirely. Over the next several hours, the humans worked with a team of alien scientist poets to develop what they called chaos tactics. It was the strangest collaboration in history. Beings of pure mathematical thought trying to learn how to be random. Chief, Engineer Yunseo demonstrated by taking apart a perfectly functional alien device and rebuilding it in a way that made no engineering sense. The new version worked better than the original. How? Demanded the lead alien engineer, whose thoughts conveyed both fascination and horror. I don't know, Yunseo admitted. I just followed my instincts instead of the logical design principles. Sometimes inefficiency creates unexpected benefits. The aliens struggled with the concept. Their minds were designed to find elegant solutions, not messy ones. Teaching them to think randomly was like teaching fish to climb trees. But gradually, some of them began to understand. The younger aliens, who hadn't yet developed rigid thinking patterns, proved most adaptable. They started experimenting with incorrect solutions to simple problems and were amazed when many of them worked. Major Han Bo Young worked with alien pilots to develop new flying techniques. Instead of the graceful mathematical flight patterns the aliens preferred, she taught them to fly in ways that looked like barely controlled crashes. The harvesters will calculate your trajectory and intercept you, she explained while demonstrating in a simulator. But if you fly like you're having equipment failures, they won't be able to predict where you're going because you don't know where you're going either. The alien pilots were terrified by the idea, but they practiced anyway. Their ships began wobbling through space in patterns that looked completely random, but somehow avoided every harvester weapon. While the flight training continued, Yoon worked with the alien military commanders on overall strategy. This proved even more challenging than teaching pilots to fly badly. Your current plan is perfect, he told them during a strategy session. You've calculated exactly how to maximize damage while minimizing casualties. The harvesters have probably calculated the same thing. They're ready for you. Then what do you suggest? Asked the military leader, whose crystalline form had taken on angular shapes that conveyed aggression. We do everything wrong, Yoon replied. We attack when we should retreat. We split our forces when we should concentrate them. We use our weakest weapons against their strongest points. The alien commander's thoughts filled the room with chaos. This plan will result in total defeat. Maybe, Yoon admitted, but it might also result in total victory. The harvesters won't be prepared for an enemy that deliberately chooses losing strategies. Dr. Song had been quiet during most of the planning, but now she raised a concern. Captain, are we sure about this? We're basically teaching an entire civilization to abandon everything that makes them who they are. Not abandon, corrected the speaker, who had been listening to the debate. Expand. We are learning new harmonies, new ways of thinking. It is terrifying and wonderful. The breakthrough came when young alien named Echo of Distant Stars, humans had to use simplified names, successfully modified a weapon to fire in completely random directions. According to all calculations, it should have been useless. Instead, it somehow managed to hit 3 different targets simultaneously by ricocheting off asteroids and debris in ways that no computer could predict. "I aimed where logic said not to aim," Echo explained, its form glowing with excitement. "The weapon found its own path." Word of the success spread through the alien city. Within hours, hundreds of aliens were experimenting with illogical solutions to various problems. Some failed spectacularly, but others produced results that seemed almost magical. Most importantly, they were learning to surprise themselves. The final test came when Sergeant Kim Woo-jin, the ship's demolitions expert, worked with alien engineers to modify their mining equipment for combat. Instead of creating elegant weapons, they built devices that barely functioned but did unpredictable things. "This launcher might fire backwards," Kim explained cheerfully. "This explosive might not detonate for several minutes, or it might go off immediately. This targeting system points at whatever it feels like pointing at." "These weapons are terrible," observed an alien engineer. "Exactly," Kim grinned. "The harvesters will never see them coming because no sane person would ever build weapons this bad." As the harvesters continued their slow approach toward the planet, the aliens prepared for the most irrational battle in galactic history. Ships that flew in patterns that defied physics, weapons that didn't work properly, strategies that guaranteed defeat according to every military calculation ever made. Captain Yoon stood in the command center, watching the preparations. The aliens had embraced chaos with an enthusiasm that both impressed and terrified him. They were still logical beings at heart, but now they could choose to ignore logic when it suited them. "Think it will work?" Yunseo asked. "I have no idea," Yoon replied honestly. "That's exactly why it might." Above them, the harvesters were only hours away from the planet. Soon they would discover what happened when perfect machines encountered perfectly imperfect opponents. The universe was about to learn that sometimes the best solution was the one that made no sense at all. The battle began at dawn. Though dawn on this world was marked by the glow of 17 massive harvester machines entering the planet's atmosphere like metal mountains falling from the sky. Captain Yoon watched from the alien command center as the first wave of defenders launched from hidden bases across the planet. The sight would have been beautiful if it wasn't so desperate. Hundreds of crystalline ships rising from the scarred surface like glowing insects, their flight patterns completely chaotic. "They're actually doing it," breathed Major Han Bo-young, who was coordinating with the alien pilots. "They're flying like drunk birds and somehow avoiding every harvester targeting system." On the tactical display, the alien ships wobbled and spiraled through space in patterns that hurt to look at. Several pilots were flying backwards. Others kept changing direction for no apparent reason. One ship was spinning end over end while firing its weapons randomly in all directions. The harvesters, designed to predict and counter logical flight patterns, couldn't lock onto targets that had no logical flight patterns. Their massive weapons swung back and forth uselessly, always, aiming where the alien ships should be instead of where they actually were. "First phase is working," reported Dr. Nam Subin from his monitoring station. "The harvesters are expending 40% more energy than normal trying to track targets. Their efficiency calculations are completely confused. But the real test came when the alien ships began their attack runs. Instead of targeting the harvesters' obvious weak points, sensor arrays, weapon systems, power cores, they aimed at seemingly random locations on the massive machines' hulls. "Why are they shooting at that section?" Yunseo wondered, pointing at a feed showing alien weapons striking an apparently unimportant part of a harvester's surface. "Because it doesn't make sense to shoot there," Yoon replied, "which means the harvester isn't defending it properly." As if to prove his point, the seemingly random attacks began having unexpected effects. A shot at a blank section of hull caused a chain reaction that disabled 3 weapon systems. Another ship firing wildly managed to hit a concealed sensor, node that the harvesters themselves might not have known was vulnerable. The harvesters began adapting, trying to randomize their own defensive patterns. But randomness was alien to their nature. When they attempted unpredictable behavior, it came out as calculated chaos, pseudo-random patterns that the alien pilots, now thinking partly like humans, could still predict. "They're learning," observed Echo of Distant Stars, the young alien who had first mastered illogical weapons design. "But they're learning to be random the logical way. That's not the same thing." The second wave of the battle involved the modified mining equipment that Sergeant Kim Woo-jin had helped weaponize. Alien engineers brought out machines that looked like they had been assembled by committee during an earthquake. "Is that drill supposed to be spinning sideways?" asked Dr. Song Ji-hai. "Probably not," Kim replied cheerfully. "But look what it's doing to that harvester's leg." The sideways spinning drill had somehow gotten tangled in the massive machine's support structure and was causing the entire harvester to list to one side. Other equally nonsensical weapons were having similarly unpredictable effects. A mining laser that fired in random directions ricocheted off 3 different asteroids before punching through a harvester's main processing unit. An excavator that moved by hopping instead of walking somehow managed to climb onto a harvester's back and begin tearing off armor plating. "The harvesters can't calculate how to respond," Nam reported excitedly. "Their programming doesn't include protocols for dealing with weapons that work incorrectly. But the most spectacular part of the battle involved the UES Taegukgi itself. Captain Yoon had decided that if they were teaching aliens to think like humans, they might as well show them how humans really fought. "Take us directly at that harvester," he ordered Han. "Maximum speed, no evasive maneuvers." "Captain, that's suicide," Han protested. "Their weapons will tear us apart." "Only if they can hit us. But they're programmed to expect us to try to avoid getting shot, so we won't try." The Taegukgi accelerated straight toward the largest harvester, making no attempt to dodge the massive energy beams that lanced out to intercept it. The harvester's targeting systems, designed to lead moving targets that were trying to avoid being hit, kept missing a target that wasn't trying to avoid anything. "This is insane," muttered Yoon Seo from the engineering station. "We're playing chicken with a planet-eating machine. And winning," Yoon pointed out as another harvester beam passed harmlessly to their left. At the last possible second, Yoon ordered a radical course change that sent the Taegukgi spiraling around the harvester's main body. Their weapons fired, continuously, not at strategic targets, but at whatever happened to be in front of them at any given moment. The random barrage did something that years of calculated alien attacks had failed to accomplish. It hit the harvester's central processing core. The massive machine shuddered, sparked, and began moving in confused circles. "One down," Yoon announced. 16 to go." Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. Human crew members worked alongside alien warriors, teaching them new ways to embrace chaos. Dr. Bae-hee-jin used medical nanobots not to heal, but to introduce random errors into harvester systems. The nanobots were supposed to repair tissue, but when they encountered mechanical components, they tried to heal them into organic shapes. Sergeant Kim had taught alien demolition experts to use explosives in ways that violated every safety protocol ever written. Instead of shaped charges designed to focus destruction on specific targets, They created bombs that exploded in random directions, causing unpredictable damage throughout harvester systems. "I don't understand why this works," admitted one alien. "Engineer whose form was shifting through confused patterns." "That's exactly why it works," Kim replied. "If you understood it, the harvesters could calculate it." The tide of battle began to turn as more harvesters fell to the irrational assault. But the machines were learning too, trying to adapt their programming to counter illogical opponents. Some began moving randomly, others started firing weapons in seemingly purposeless patterns. "They're trying to out-crazy us," Han observed during a brief lull in combat. "But they can't," Yoon realized. Controlled randomness isn't the same as human unpredictability. They're still thinking like machines, just using random number generators instead of pure logic. The final phase of the battle proved him right. As the harvesters became more erratic, they also became less efficient. Their random movements interfered with each other. Their unpredictable weapon fire hit their own units as often as it hit the defenders. Most critically, their random behavior patterns were still generated by computer algorithms, which meant they could be predicted by other computers. The aliens, now thinking with human-influenced chaos, could sense patterns in the harvesters' randomness that the machines themselves couldn't see. "They're not being irrational," Echo of Distant Stars observed during a tactical meeting. "They're being systematically irrational. There's a difference." "Exactly," Yoon said. "True irrationality can't be programmed. It has to be felt." The battle's climax came when Captain Yoon made the ultimate irrational decision. With only 3 harvesters remaining, he ordered the Taeguki to ram directly into the largest machine's central control node. "Captain, that will destroy the ship," Eun-seo protested. "Not to destroy it," Yoon explained calmly. "To upload something into it." "Upload what?" "Human consciousness patterns. Our thought processes, our emotional responses, our capacity for making terrible decisions for good reasons. We're going to give the Harvester Network something it can't compute. The human experience of caring about others more than ourselves." The plan was magnificent in its stupidity. Instead of trying to destroy the harvesters, they would make them human. The uploaded consciousness patterns would spread through the harvester network like a virus, introducing concepts like compassion, sacrifice, and illogical heroism. "It might work," Nam said slowly. "Or it might just confuse them long enough for the remaining alien ships to finish them off. Or it might turn them into giant robots with human personalities," Song added. "Which could be either very good or very bad." Yoon smiled as he prepared for the final approach. Only one way to find out. The Taeguki accelerated toward its target, carrying the hopes of 2 species and the most irrational battle plan in galactic history. Behind them, human and alien ships continued their chaotic dance through space, proving that sometimes the universe's greatest problems required its most illogical solutions. The war between order and chaos was about to be decided by beings who had learned that the best way to win was to not try to win at all. 6 months after the battle, the planet looked like it was healing from a terrible wound. Where the harvesters had torn away mountains and continents, new structures were growing, part alien crystal, part human engineering, and part something entirely unprecedented. Captain Yoon floated in the observation deck of the rebuilt Taeguki, watching work crews of humans and aliens cooperating on projects that neither species could have imagined alone. The ship itself was a testament to their collaboration, still recognizably human in design, but now incorporating flowing crystalline elements that made it more beautiful and somehow more alive. The integration process is accelerating, reported Dr. Nam Soo-bin as he joined Yoon at the observation window. Both species are changing faster than we ever predicted. Changing how? Yoon asked, though he suspected he already knew. He had felt it himself. Thoughts that seemed to come from nowhere, insights that arrived fully formed without logical progression, an ability to see patterns that human minds shouldn't be able to process. The aliens are learning to think linearly when they need to, Nam explained. They can focus on single problems instead of trying to solve everything at once. But they're also retaining their multidimensional perspective. They're becoming more flexible and humans? Nam's expression grew thoughtful. We're developing the ability to process information in ways that would have been impossible before. Engineer Kang solved a propulsion problem yesterday by thinking about it in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Major Han can now pilot ships using navigation methods that don't require sequential thought. Through the window, they could see echo of distant stars. Working with Sergeant Kim Woo-jin on what appeared to be a sculpture made of metal and crystal. But Yoon knew it was actually a new type of defensive system, one that operated on principles that were part human engineering and part alien mathematics. Saba, the real question, Nam continued, is whether we're still the same species we were when we arrived here. Before Yoon could answer, Dr. Song Ji-hai's voice came over the communication system. Captain, you need to see this. We're receiving signals from across the galaxy. They made their way to the communication center, where Song was surrounded by displays showing dozens of different alien transmissions. The messages were arriving from star systems hundreds of light years away, all addressing humanity directly. How do they even know we exist? Yoon wondered. Word travels fast when someone defeats a harvester fleet, Song replied. Apparently, those machines were a threat to multiple civilizations. Our victory here has attracted attention from species we never knew existed. She activated one of the transmissions. The message appeared in perfect human language, though the sender was clearly not human. Greetings to the humans who think with chaos, the message began. We are the symmetry builders of the spiral arm. We have observed your victory over the devourers and wish to learn your methods of illogical warfare. We offer technological exchange and alliance. Another message activated automatically. 2. The species that helps strangers without being asked. The hive mind of Centaurus requests your assistance with a problem that logic cannot solve. We offer payment in quantum computing matrices. More transmissions followed, each from a different alien civilization. Some wanted to hire humans as military consultants. Others offered trade agreements. A few seemed to be warnings. This one's interesting, Song noted, highlighting a particularly complex transmission. It's from something calling itself the logical orthodoxy. They're demanding that we stop spreading chaos contamination throughout the galaxy. Yoon frowned. Chaos contamination? Apparently, our methods of fighting the harvesters have inspired other species to experiment with irrational solutions to their problems. The logical orthodoxy considers this a threat to galactic order. Dr. Choi Min-ji arrived in the communication center, looking both excited and worried. Captain, I've been analyzing the biological changes in our crew. The exposure to alien thought patterns has triggered some kind of evolutionary adaptation. Our brains are literally rewiring themselves. Is that dangerous? Yoon asked. I don't think so. The changes seem to be beneficial. Increased cognitive flexibility, enhanced pattern recognition, improved intuitive problem-solving. But they're also permanent. Everyone who participated in the mission is developing new mental capabilities. Chief Engineer Kang Yun-seo joined the group, her expression troubled. We have a bigger problem. I've been monitoring quantum communications from Earth. They're concerned about our extended absence and the reports we've been sending. Concerned how? Some factions are worried that we've been compromised by alien influence. There's talk of quarantining the entire crew when we return to Earth. The room fell silent. The implications were staggering. The very people who had risked everything to save an alien civilization might be treated as a threat by their own species. There's more, Yun-seo continued reluctantly. Earth Command has detected energy signatures from our direction that don't match any known technology. They think we might be bringing alien weapons back with us. Yun looked at the rebuilt ship around them with its hybrid human-alien technology that had emerged from their collaboration with the crystalline beings. In a sense, Earth's fears weren't entirely wrong. They were returning as something more than they had been when they left. What do the aliens think about all this? He asked. Echo of distant stars materialized in the room. Literally materialized. Using some new ability that combined alien energy manipulation with human transportation technology. The young alien's form had changed over the months, becoming more geometric and somehow more expressive at the same time. The Harmony Council is concerned, Echo communicated, its thoughts flowing into their minds with improved clarity. Many star civilizations are requesting our aid with problems that require illogical solutions. We fear we may have created expectations we cannot fulfill. What kind of problems? Song asked. Mechanical plagues that adapt to logical countermeasures. Computer viruses that evolve beyond their programming. Artificial intelligences that have become too smart for their creators to control. Echo's form shifted to express worry. They all believe that human-style chaos thinking can solve what logic cannot. Dr. Nam realized the implications first. We've accidentally become famous as the species that can solve impossible problems through controlled irrationality. But that's not something we can package and export, Yun pointed out. What we did here worked because of the specific combination of human unpredictability and alien logic. We can't just teach other species to think like humans and expect the same results. Another transmission arrived, this one marked with extreme priority. The sender identification made everyone freeze. It was from Earth itself, specifically from Admiral Lee Taemin. Captain Yoon, the Admiral's familiar voice filled the room. We've been monitoring unusual energy signatures from your location. We're also receiving communications from multiple alien civilizations claiming to have made contact with humanity through you. Earth Command needs to know, what exactly have you done out there? The message continued. Furthermore, we've detected that your ship's technology has been significantly modified. For security reasons, you are ordered to return to Earth immediately for debriefing and inspection. Do not make contact with any additional alien species until further notice. Yoon exchanged glances with his crew. They all understood the dilemma. Return to Earth and face possible quarantine or worse, but maintain their connection to humanity. Or remain in space as representatives of a changed human civilization, but risk being cut off from their home forever. There's a third option, Echo suggested, its crystalline form brightening with what might have been hope. The Harmony Council has proposed establishing a joint colony, human and alien, serving as ambassadors to the galaxy, a place where species can come to learn chaos logic. Solutions to impossible problems. You mean become galactic consultants for weird problems? Yun-seo asked. Essentially, yes. The galaxy appears to need specialists in creative irrationality. Captain Yoon looked around at his crew. Humans who were no longer entirely human, aliens who were no longer entirely alien, and technology that belonged to both species and neither. "What do you all think?" he asked. The answer came not in words, but in the shared understanding that had developed between them over months of impossible collaboration. They had started as a rescue mission and become something unprecedented. A bridge between logical and illogical thinking, between order and chaos, between species that should never have been able to communicate. Outside the window, ships from a dozen different civilizations were arriving to meet the famous chaos thinkers. The galaxy was calling, and humanity, changed and expanded beyond its original definition, was ready to answer. But first, they had to decide what humanity meant now that it was no longer limited to just humans. 1 year later, the Sol system looked like the galaxy's busiest intersection. Ships from dozens of alien civilizations orbited Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, creating a traffic control nightmare that somehow worked through a combination of human improvisation and alien mathematics. Ambassador Park So-young, promoted from her engineering role after proving remarkably gifted at interspecies diplomacy, stood in the new Galactic Relations Center that had been hastily built in Earth. Orbit. Through the massive viewing windows, she could see vessels that defied every known principle of physics working alongside Earth's finest ships. "Status report," she requested from her aide, Lieutenant Yu Min-jung. 17 alien delegations are waiting for meetings, Min-jung replied, consulting her tablet. "The probability shapers want help with a computer virus that's making their calculations fall in love with each other. The hive mind of Centaurus has a rebellion problem. Apparently, some of their individual nodes have learned to think independently and are refusing to reconnect. And the concerning ones?" Min-jung's expression grew serious. "The logical orthodoxy has arrived with a battle fleet. They're demanding that we stop what they're calling chaos contamination before it spreads further. Admiral Lee is preparing Earth's defenses, but their technology is significantly more advanced than ours." So, Young nodded grimly. She had expected this confrontation ever since the first reports of humanity's irrational warfare had spread across the galaxy. Not every species appreciated the idea of abandoning logic for creativity. "Any word from Captain Yoon?" "The Taiguchi is 3 days out from the Vega system, where they're helping the geometric purists deal with an art form that's achieved consciousness and is redecorating their planet against their will." So-young smiled despite her worries. The Taiguchi had become the galaxy's premier troubleshooting ship, traveling from system to solve problems that conventional logic couldn't handle. Captain Yoon and his hybrid crew had developed a reputation for achieving impossible results through methods that made no sense to anyone, including themselves. But their success had also attracted enemies. "Ma'am," Min-jung continued, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Logical Orthodoxy flagship." The main screen activated, showing a being that looked like a walking equation. All angles and precise lines, with eyes that glowed with mathematical certainty. When it spoke, its voice was perfectly modulated and completely without emotion. "I am primary calculation Quarth of the Logical Orthodoxy," it announced. "We have come to discuss the chaos contamination that has spread from this system." "Chaos contamination?" So-young repeated. "You mean our diplomatic and humanitarian missions?" "You mean the systematic destruction of rational thought that your species has introduced to 12 different civilizations," Quarth corrected. "Before your arrival, the galaxy operated according to logical principles. Problems were solved through calculation and analysis. Now, Species throughout the spiral arm are making decisions based on emotion, intuition, and random chance. And that's bad? Kaorth's form shifted to express what might have been horror. It is the definition of bad. Logic is the foundation of civilization. Without it, there is only chaos, suffering, and inefficiency. But our methods work, So Young pointed out. We've helped solve problems that pure logic couldn't handle. Temporary solutions, Kaorth dismissed, built on unstable foundations that will collapse when subjected to proper analysis. We have come to offer humanity a choice. Cease these chaos-spreading activities and submit to logical re-education, or be cleansed from the galaxy as a threat to rational civilization. The transmission ended, leaving So Young staring at a screen, full of advanced warships that could probably destroy Earth's entire fleet without effort. "How long until the Taiguchi returns?" she asked. 2 days if they push their engines, Minjung replied. But Captain Yoon's crew is only 200 people. Even with their hybrid technology, they can't fight an entire fleet. So Young was about to respond when her communication system activated. Dr. Kim Dae-ho appeared on the screen, transmitting from the monitoring station where this all began. "Ambassador, you need to see this," he said excitedly. "We're receiving transmissions from all over the galaxy. It's not just the logical orthodoxy that's responding to our activities." The display filled with messages from hundreds of different alien civilizations. But unlike the previous communications they had received, these weren't requests for help or offers of alliance. They were declarations of support. From the Symmetry Builders, "We stand with the Chaos Bringers. Logic without creativity is death." From the Hive Mind of Centaurus, "Individual thought has made us stronger. We will defend those who taught us to think differently." From the Probability Shapers, "Mathematical love is more beautiful than mathematical precision. We choose beauty." Message after message scrolled across the screen, each from a different species that had been influenced by human methods of problem-solving. They were forming what they called the Irrational Accord, a coalition of civilizations, committed to defending creativity, intuition, and the right to make decisions that didn't make perfect sense. "How many?" So Young asked, awed by the response. 47 species so far," Kim reported. "And more are joining every hour. It seems our chaos contamination has been more popular than the logical orthodoxy realized." Within hours, ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Not the sleek, efficient vessels of the logical orthodoxy, but a wild variety of craft that reflected their builders' newfound embrace of creative thinking. Some ships were clearly functional but looked like they had been designed by artists. Others incorporated random elements that served no obvious purpose but somehow made the vessels more effective. The Symmetry Builders sent ships that constantly changed shape in flight. The Hive Mind contributed vessels that moved in unpredictable swarms. The Probability Shapers arrived in craft that flickered between multiple possible configurations. Admiral Lee Tae-min coordinated the defense from Earth's military headquarters, trying to make sense of an alliance that included dozens of species, with completely different technologies and tactical doctrines. How are we supposed to command a fleet where half the ships operate on principles we don't understand? He wondered aloud to his staff. "Maybe we don't command them," suggested Colonel Park Ji-won. "Maybe we just coordinate the chaos." It was Dr. Song Ji-hai who provided the insight that made it work. "Don't try to create a logical battle plan," she advised during the final strategy session. Create a framework for improvisation. Give each species the freedom to contribute what they do best, then trust them to surprise everyone, including us. When the logical orthodoxy fleet moved to attack, they faced something unprecedented in galactic history, a completely unpredictable defense force. The Symmetry Builders' shape-changing ships made it impossible for the orthodoxy's targeting systems to lock on. The hive mind's swarm tactics created patterns that couldn't be calculated in advance. Human vessels, now incorporating alien technology and piloted by crews with expanded consciousness, moved in ways that defied both human and alien expectations. But the real shock came when the Teguki arrived, not from the expected direction but from underneath the galactic plane. Having taken a route that should have been impossible according to known navigation principles. Captain Yoon's voice came over the communication system, calm and confident. "This is Captain Yoon Jae-sung of the Irrational Accord. Logical Orthodoxy. Fleet, you are outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outthought. We suggest you reconsider your position." Primary Calculation Korth responded with mathematical precision. "Impossible. Our fleet analysis indicates a 94.7% probability of victory against your disorganized forces." "That's your problem," Yoon replied cheerfully. "You're still calculating probabilities. We stopped caring about odds a long time ago." The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. The Irrational Accord fleet didn't try to destroy the Orthodoxy ships. Instead, they confused them. Ships that should have been enemies began working together in ways that made no tactical sense, but achieved strategic objectives. Human vessels shared targeting data with alien craft using communication methods that shouldn't have worked. The probability shapers created weapon effects that existed in multiple states simultaneously. The Symmetry Builders turned their own ships into art installations that were so beautiful the Orthodoxy crews stopped fighting to admire them. Most disorienting of all, Echo of Distant Stars and other evolved aliens began broadcasting their new form of consciousness directly to the Orthodoxy ships, giving the logical beings their first taste of creative, non-linear thinking. The effect was immediate and profound. Orthodoxy crew members began making decisions based on intuition rather than calculation. Their perfectly logical battle formations started developing creative variations. Some ships began decorating their hulls with patterns that served no tactical purpose, but somehow improved morale. Primary calculation. Korth's own ship began broadcasting messages that contained poetry mixed with mathematical equations. The logical being was experiencing something it had never felt before, the joy of creating something beautiful rather than simply efficient.